Welcome to another episode of the Protein Bros podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Wasserman, and as with me always, my co-host, Kyle Combs.
Hey.
This is a very special day in Protein Bros history. If you've been listening with us from the beginning, you remember our first ever episode was with JP Price from Strong Barbell Club. And today, 1 year later, to kick off year two, we've brought back JP and his handsome ass sidekick, Kade Proctor.
Gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Gorgeous.
That means so much to me.
Talk about the mullet you have going right now. Can we get your hat off?
Yes,
Can we see the whole thing in all its glory? Cade comes to us, a new man.
I just went back to the 80s. You just took me.
Brett the Hitman Hart vibes this morning, right?
Absolutely.
Like freshly showered, so it's still a little wet in the back. If he sat on a couch, if you guys had a couch like you used to, he could sit on it and he'd get up and it'd be like off of Coming to America, the Soul Glow guys.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That's exactly right. We got a very special guest with JP and Kade here. We got a lot of information to release and let you guys in on. Some exciting times for all of us. So we also want to recognize for all of our YouTube watchers or people that like to watch on Spotify, we are in our new Protein Bros studio here in Kansas City. If you guys can't see, it's pretty dope.
Ward Parkway.
We used to do this on the third floor of my house, and now we're doing it in our own dedicated Protein Bros podcast studio. That is thanks to all of you listeners. Appreciate you guys supporting us. And we need to continue to support us because we got to pay for all this. So please tell everybody, share it up, do what you can. Help us out. All right, done with
Just
the charity.
Venmo us some money, I guess.
Yeah.
The 1 year anniversary show. This is a big deal, though, guys.
Yeah, man.
We're doing the first show here, and I'm really honored because I get to see it before everybody else, but also because we're going to test the limits of the studio.
Yeah.
I don't know that you'll have two bigger guests on this side of the table. Like if we were on a teeter-totter right now, you guys would be in the sky.
Yeah.
Dude,
Well, when you put it that way, I guess you would be correct. Yes.
I'm going to be searching for teeter-totters after this.
right now you guys are sitting down, side to side, easy, with tons of space.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think either one of your boys could fit in there.
We're both man
Absolutely.
spread
There's a
and
ton of
feeling
space
good,
for
right?
activities.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We got
So
enough
much.
drinks. We got enough water.
I think we should do it sitting on each other's laps. Me and Jeff come over there.
Next time for sure.
Yeah.
Me and JP do that all the time already right now.
I know. That's what I heard.
We talked before the show
I'm down.
started. JP and I hang out on the reg outside of podcasting, and we never sit across from each other like this.
Like at dinner,
super
sure,
weird.
but it feels way weirder with
But
the
we don't-
microphone.
even at dinner, I don't even know if we get dinner out. We get it delivered.
No,
that's
you guys
true.
go to dinner out and you guys sit in the same
True, we
booth.
don't.
We sit on the same side of the booth.
Same side
I
of
think
the
the
booth.
reason it feels weird is because we're not used to having this much between us.
That's
Yeah,
true.
To be honest,
That's true.
So, on a serious note, Strong Barbell Club, we talked about what it was as a gym, what made you guys unique, what kind of equipment you guys have. I would say it is the mecca of powerlifting, at least in the Midwest, if not the country. What do we got coming as far as growth goes? Because you guys have done so much in the last year as far as growth goes, adding equipment, et cetera. But I know that you guys weren't done. What's the next step, I guess?
yeah. So co-owner Ethan and I, the way that we look at it is we want to be the best strength sports gym in the country. We want to be the best we can be at it. And so we're trying to grow always naturally. We're always trying to add equipment. Our space looks nothing like it looked a little over 3 years ago when we started. I mean, it's wild how much different it looks. And so Ethan and I invest everything we can back into the gym. And, we're at that point now in our 6,000 square foot space in Northtown where we can't offer group classes because it's not big enough. And we can't do some of the things that we want to do to be able to do what we do best. And we need a bigger facility for that. So we're going to be moving from Northtown to North Johnson County. It's an Overland Park address right off of 635 and I-35. And we're going from a 6,000 square foot building to 12,000 square feet. And we're going to be able to add a lot of the stuff that we haven't been able to focus on because we've been so focused on what we're good at that we're like, okay, now time to get good at some more things. Because, we've got 15 squat racks in our place. We've got all the best bars that we could have. We've got all these platforms. Now we need to get bigger because it's too busy in the busy
15
hours.
squat racks?
We're going to have 20 at the new place.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We've got
20 full racks?
We've got, so a monolift is like this big giant thing that people squat out of, right? You guys know what a monolift is. So, a monolift is something where you stand up with the weight and the rack moves out from underneath you, and there's any gym in Kansas City, there's a few gyms that have one.
And just to be clear for our listeners, a monolift keeps it from the lifter having to walk the weight out.
True,
Correct.
and it's also a safety system because it has like ropes that hang from it that hold the weight if you fall.
Got it.
Right. So monolifts are not real common. They're pretty specific to our sport, and we have 4 of them. So it's a little bit. We actually have 5. We're gonna get rid of 1. Yeah. And then the combo racks that we use for powerlifting. Most gyms that do what we do have 1 of those or so, and we have 8. And so we're just trying to do what we do the best that we could possibly do it. And now we're venturing out a little bit to make other strength sports more comfortable in our space, bodybuilding, people training for athletics, and just trying to grow what we do. And we're moving to an area where we can do that.
That's awesome. Man. It sounds like it's going to be much more centrally located for people.
So right now we love our spot because it's pretty central, but people come from all over to go to it because we're kind of niche. Mm-hmm. But the area we're going to, we still feel like is really central, but way, way, way more populated.
No doubt.
So there's a lot more people close by. There's a lot more things close by. It's
a lot more room for opportunity.
North Kansas City used to be kind of a dead area, and it's getting a lot better, and it's awesome, but it's still not a residential area at all.
Sure.
So there's no supermarket anywhere.
No.
Usually you see gyms next to supermarkets, right? Mm-hmm. Like here, there's a Trader Joe's and a Genesis next door. That makes sense,
right?
All those things are in one area. Well, we want to be able to be in that area too.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so now we're finally at that point where we can afford to be in a place where we can be close to everything we feel like we need to be close to, including the people. And will that, displace some people or make our, membership maybe not all be able to be at the same place? It could, but the dream is to have one really, really great place.
Yeah.
And if we branch out from that later in the future, that's great. But to be honest, we kicked around the idea, over and over. Do we do one place? Do we do 2 places? Well, 1, incredibly hard to financially support 2 right now. Mm-hmm. And 2, it's a lot of unknown, and in a small business, unknown's fine, but also, try to make calculated risks. And this one with the 1 bigger building is a very calculated risk that we can handle, and we're very prepared for, and we're excited for.
You'll be able to maintain your culture too. Like you'll have full control of maintaining your culture if you just have one big centrally located spot.
Right.
Are you guys, is one of you guys' goals with that? Because basically North Johnson County is arguably probably one of the hubs for athletes in high school.
Yeah.
Is that one of the decisions that went into it, is you want to be able to help younger athletes as well?
Absolutely.
Because there is no high schools in North,
right.
Where you guys were at. I mean, where's the closest high school to where you guys are at currently?
Yeah. I mean, we have one high school around us now, and that's really it. There's nothing closer. And, for us to be in that area, in that hub, we already have some kids coming to us from 45 minutes away, and some of them driving themselves, and we don't want that. We'd rather them have 15 to 25 minutes.
Let's make it more convenient.
The longer I'm in this, the more I get deep into it, the more I want to get back to my roots a little bit. Yeah. It seems like for me personally. And so the deeper Kade and I get into training power lifters and really specific people, the more we really, really want to just work with kids sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really, really fun. And so to work with kids, to work with, an older population too, any of those populations, it's not what we're already trying to be great at all the time. Mm-hmm. It's pretty fun for us, and we want to grow that quite a bit. We love working with athletes, and I was a pretty good athlete in high school and college, and I know Kade was too. And so for us to get our influence into that age group, I think is going to be a big deal.
I think a lot of it too is we want something that maybe a lot of people didn't have. Like, I know that I had a great weights coach growing up, but not everyone has that. And if you can get a hold of people young and you can influence them to be doing the right things, showing them proper techniques, things like that, it's like you can change their whole trajectory of their life.
Yeah.
Right. And then to piggyback off of like older people, it's like maybe you get a hold of them late 50s, 60s, things like that. You can change their ADLs, and improve their life drastically. Maybe they don't have to even, maybe they don't have to go to a home because you changed their life enough that they can now get off the couch.
And you taught them how to move.
They can move properly. They can do things for themselves that they couldn't before.
A stat that I heard the other day that was incredible. If you're over 60 years old and you fall, if you have a traumatic fall and you're over 60 years old, there's a 33% chance you die within a year after that fall. Wow. And that's purely because, like what you were saying, they don't have the strength built up. And so in that same conversation, I also heard the guy talking about how actually when you get older, it's strength to pull. So basically being able to pull yourself up that makes a huge difference as far as longevity goes, because I didn't realize it, but you know, a huge percentage of the population when they get older like that, they just die from basically being frail.
Yeah.
You know, which is insane.
Right. Like there's experiences that I've gotten to have from being good at lifting weights. Now I started when I was 12, you know, and I really value that. We've got a couple kids that come in now that are younger, whether they're skinny or overweight or whatever their goals are, to be able to start to give them the tools to, you know, manage themselves as a young athlete is really fun for us. And so for me, being in this for so long and getting to have so much good experience, right? So if I want to learn something, I'm just going to go right to the source. And, you know, I don't do a whole lot of continuing education stuff, but I do a ton of continuing education with working with people that I want to learn from. And so, like my experiences with Stuart McGill and Andrew Locke, like where we're going to, I'd love to be a resource where, hey, if you're in, you know, Johnson County or the greater Kansas City area and you need help with your spinal stability, your bad back, your ability to get out of bed easier in the morning, then I'd love to help more people. Right?
Yeah, dude, you changed my life with that.
Like, how much more would we have worked together if I was on the other side of the city?
A lot.
Literally, because you were only in the South.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, those are things that are really important to me. And there's so many things we don't do a day because we're just not in an area where we can do that, or don't have the space, or know that we can't reach the people we need to reach.
For sure.
And so to open that up, it'll be a good challenge for us, and it'll also be a lot of fun. And I think it's going to be great for our business.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so excited for you guys. And dude, I just want to say I'm super proud of you and Ethan for having the, you know, the gall to take that risk. You know what I mean? You guys have a gym that you guys have established. You have an established membership base that love coming to the gym, love working with everybody, and to say, hey, let's uproot and move to another spot. I know it can be terrifying from as being a business owner. And dude, I'm just saying, I'm super proud of you guys for making that leap.
For sure, man. Talk about the decision making that went into that. I'm sure having Kade and basically having a couple more people that you can rely on and like actually, you know, trust made that decision making easier. But, you know, there is consequences to decisions, and there's a lot that goes into it. Talk about, you know, what that decision process was like. Was it just basically getting to a point where you had some people underneath you that you trusted enough to be able to work with these younger populations, older populations?
Well, there's a period where, you know, we don't get a ton of foot traffic because of our location. You know, we also don't advertise a ton because there's not a lot more services we can provide than we are. And we wanted to be able to. And so we needed a little bit of infrastructure. We needed, you know, some people like Kade, and then we have another guy, Marshall, who works a job during the day and comes at night, and he's a really good coach, but we need to have this time to build people's businesses. You know, all these things are built organically, and nothing's forced, and, you know, now we've got to create class and build those organically. And, you know, one of the frustrations as a business owner or a young, you know, startup business is when you were there for the very first day and you never slept and you didn't have cameras yet, so you were there 24/7 and you didn't see your kids and you were just busting it over and over because you had this little dream, and once you start a project you can't finish it, or else it'll be obvious you didn't finish it. And so for us, you know, we're getting to do that again, and there's that stressful part where you're like, okay, well, now we're putting in a lot of work that we're not going to get paid for. And these people that I'm bringing with me aren't either, with the promise that we could build something great. Now, they obviously believe that's why they're here, but, you know, we want to be able to build everybody's business. We want to be able to bring more people with us because Ethan and I can't do it all, and we don't want to. You know, we want the community to be big and thriving and feel good. And there's so many risks in moving, but I think it's the right thing to do. Like we looked at all the zip codes and area codes of where everybody's from and our whole population and how much time it could add to a commute and what were we adding in value, you know, that we could make that better. So, like, for example, I think the longest commute change was 7 minutes.
Wow.
For where we're going from, like, Liberty, Missouri to our gym, right? And so with the longest commute change being 7 minutes, we're like, okay, well, in the summer, we can have some air conditioning, which our place, just so everybody knows, the doors are open, the music's loud. I mean, it's a very flowy, freeform, fun place. You know, it feels more like a college and high school training atmosphere with really, really good athletes in it and beginners. I mean, everybody's welcome. So if we're going to be able to add air conditioning when it's 100 degrees, we're going to add a circuit. We're going to add the cardio we want. We're going to do indoor and outdoor turf instead of just outdoor. We're going to add space for group class. We're going to have way more amenities. Okay, if we're able to do that, is that worth 7 minutes to us? Yes. If they don't feel like it is, that's okay. This is our dream.
I love it.
And so we really want everybody to come along, but we know that they might not be able to. But we think the promise and the future of what we're doing is bigger than that.
Yeah.
So,
Kade, what was your first reaction when you were told like, hey, we're moving?
Honestly, I love the idea of it because, like he said, it might not be everyone's dream to, open up another gym, especially if we think that we're doing all right or we're content where we're at.
Comfortable, if you will.
Yeah, comfortable. Yeah. And it's like, it's one of those things where if you're not trying to grow somewhere, then what are you doing, right? Mm-hmm. So, yes, there's always going to be a risk whenever you take that leap of faith and you're like, hey, this is our dream, this is what we want to do. But it gives other opportunities for me, for Marshall, for JP, for Ethan. Eventually we want Ethan to be able to quit his job, his day job and come on there full time and help with classes and everything like that. And I think the amount of excitement that it brings is really just something that I can't put into words exactly, because it's something that you think about these things, or I personally did growing up. It's like, man, that would be so cool to just have a place to not only train at, but to help other people, to teach them things that I've learned over the years that I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. So for me, whenever they told me that we would be moving and there were these other opportunities arising, I was ecstatic.
Yeah, man, you guys look, you when you're younger, you have to look so hard to find certain places to inspire you. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't anything like Strong Barbell Club when you guys were younger.
What's cool about like working with athletes is like, if you think back to those times, that's the best fucking times of your life when you're like, just start working out. And it's like, you
getting those new gains.
I still fucking remember
it's
like
euphoria.
Fucking benching 225.
Your first ever
time.
max, hitting the 2 plates on the sides.
Just looking at your buddies like, yeah, bitch.
I'm a man now. I'm a man now.
All the memes that don't
Luke,
make fun of me now.
Luke's still waiting for that point. When's it going to be, bub?
When he joins SBC.
Yeah.
Hey, but they're moving down here, so you'll be able to bench 225 in no time.
Yeah.
Maybe even squat 225 too.
Walk in the door and that voice will drop. Listen to me. You hear this? You don't have headphones on right now, but if you did, you'd be, you know what I'm saying?
Very silky smooth.
But anyways, that's like the absolute best times of your life. And, the fact that you guys are opening up and have more square space so you can have more interactions with those kinds of kids, especially that's actually one of the things that I love about supplement superstores the most is because, you get a kid that comes in that's 14 years old. He's like, I just got a gym membership and I'm trying to get bigger. What do you guys got for that? And, you can sit down with him and say, all right, how much you eating, man? Right. And then you kind of lay out the whole, like, bro, you're going to have to, there's a long road ahead of you. You got to eat some food, dude.
Right. You're peeling back the layers. He's like, I take 2 protein shakes a day.
I eat lunch and dinner and a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Right.
My mom makes me a sandwich for lunch. You're like, all right, you're going to have to tell her to like up that to 4.
Oh yeah. That's what we do. We're like, hey, sandwich between every class.
Yeah.
That's the big one.
I used to do tuna in between classes.
The Heath Evans diet.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, the old tight end Heath Evans?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I heard he's becoming like a fitness guru these days.
Yeah. He wrote this cool diet for kids. It was hilarious. He wrote a diet for this young kid in high school, and he's like, look, here's the deal. We're going to start you out at 1 extra sandwich a day, and then on day 4, you're going to go to 2.
Yeah.
And by 3 weeks, we need you at 4 more sandwiches a day. And they can be peanut butter and jelly. They can be turkey. It doesn't matter. Load those suckers up.
Yeah.
But you need 4 extra sandwiches a day. And it was just all real food. And that's what felt good about it because, like you guys teach people, it's like, hey, there's going to be a time where that athlete needs his ignition. There's going to be a time when he needs his Formula One. But there also needs to be a time where he puts food in his face.
Yeah. Right.
And we need all of these things in order to trigger growth.
Oh, food first, for sure.
And at that point, dude, when you're young like that, man, it's like, I wouldn't say this like indiscriminately, but like you can pretty much just like shovel food if you're a skinny kid like that and you're young.
You can get away with it.
You actually just need to build up the ability to eat, because at that age, you don't have any concept of like, hey, it's going to take you a lot of food to gain weight.
Takes more fuel to run a bigger engine.
I was a bit insecure and overweight when I was younger, and I still am.
And a bit. We were all a bit.
We
were all just a little
Kyle's
chubby.
over here with
Actually,
his chiseled forearms.
all of us,
speak for yourself,
actually, all of
assholes.
us were chubbier, right?
No, Kyle had abs, greased abs in 7th grade.
My mom
For real, dude?
My mom. Hold on, I'll have to show you guys this
Wow.
after. My mom sent me, one of those legacy boxes the other day, which is
What's a
in 8th
legacy
grade.
box, Kyle?
Peaked in 8th grade.
a legacy box is like a it's an email with basically all of your photos from when you were a kid, and in one of theirs was a video, and it was like all my wrestling from my 8th grade year, and I was like, oh, this will be interesting to watch. I clicked on it. I was like, holy fuck, I was skinny. I wrestled. I think I wrestled 105 that year or something, or 110.
Kyle
I was
came out
like,
of the womb with
Jesus
like a linebacker
Christ.
neck.
No.
and shoulders.
I'll show you. I'm like a string bean, dude.
You wrestled 105 in 8th grade?
Yeah, maybe
I wrestled
110 or
165.
I was
150.
185 plus.
I was
had to,
in
165.
8th grade, I was 185 plus.
When I played 8th grade football, I had to have the blue stripe on my helmet saying I wasn't allowed to run the ball because I weighed too much.
Hey, you know what said I wasn't going to run the ball? My figure and my foot speed.
But we always dreamed of it. If you were a lineman, you were like, I'm going to fullbacks this year.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to train with the linebackers and the fullbacks this year. Like, Jeff, get back over
After
the
I
line.
graduated, after I played 4 years of football in college, and then I played rugby.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, am I going to get the ball?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we're going to give you the ball.
Yeah.
In the first game, I scored 4 times.
No, dude.
I was like,
When I played rugby, it was the greatest feeling in the world. They're
so
like,
good.
you can run the ball, sir. Here you
Yeah.
go.
JP, I imagine have you seen those videos of the guys from like Samoa that play
yeah.
rugby?
Dude, the New
Just
England-
dominating people.
Yes.
I imagine that's pretty
The
much
New
me
Zealand
running
All
into
Blacks
people.
Well,
are
so
the,
like in college rugby, like almost everybody's like a frat guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went out to play, and we had like all these guys that played football.
When you say frat guy, you mean they all chug beer.
They all, yeah.
They wore
they all had
a lot of
they all
boat
had dad
shoes?
bods.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
all looked like they played soccer in high school.
Sure.
But they were a little taller.
Yeah.
And no offense, soccer goes, but take offense, I don't care. And so I show up on this field, and I'm like 320 pounds, and I just got done playing football. And then another 6'8", 320-pound guy that played next to me was playing, and a couple others, and we ended up just trashing these teams physically. But sometimes we'd lose because we'd be out of shape.
Yeah. They'd be like, hey, we're not running into this guy. I'm going to run around
There's
him.
this play where you make a penalty like within a certain distance of the goal. They make you take a penalty 5 meters from the end zone, or try zone they call it, and you got to put the ball down in the try zone. So like if somebody kicks it out of your hand, it doesn't count,
Yeah.
So they would give me the ball 5 meters out, and none of these guys are stopping me in 5 meters. Like, step on the tracks and the train's coming through. I'd have like one by the throat, one by the hair, and then there'd be like 2 on my legs. Put the ball down. It was a blast playing rugby. This is the most fun. My mom was like, hey, that looked like a 90-minute street fight. And I was like, yeah, it felt like it too. Why do you think my ears are taped to my head, so they get ripped off?
My first game playing rugby, I got my eyelid stepped on. Not the eyeball. Somehow it like the cleat
Your eyelid?
It pinched my eyelid to the side and like went into the ground. It was crazy. It really happened like that. I also broke my nose and had a nose job afterwards from playing rugby.
I was about to say, I heard one of my roommates from college, he played rugby when he moved up here, and he said the hardest thing for him, he played at Missouri State, he played football. He's like, dude, it was so hard for me to stop leading with my head. He's like, dude, I led with my head for a lot of games, and he's like, dude, I would come away not able to see straight.
Yeah, I messed my neck up pretty good playing. I mean, it already was from football, but from playing rugby, and it would like every time we would scrum down, I would lose the feeling from my trap all the way down my arm, and I would just like run with one arm for a couple plays until
Just
it came back.
It's like an infinite stinger.
Yeah, it was a stinger.
Yeah.
Like I needed a butterfly pad, but we didn't wear pads.
You guys, so in rugby, this is a really interesting stat for people that, especially people that played football. They don't know this. It's like everybody knows like rugby is like a tough sport, whatever. But like you actually are allowed to wear shoulder pads in rugby. The rule is
If
they
you're
can't.
lame.
Yeah, for sure.
You
But
get made
it's-
fun of.
I'll explain how it works. No, but it's important.
Jeff's
like
like,
no
dude,
bitch,
I wore, dude, let me
I
tell you
didn't-
why
I
I
didn't
wore
wear-
pads.
I didn't wear shoulder
Wore
pads.
the short,
But I got it.
shoulder-girdle.
Like-
That'd be the guy where I'd be like, I'm hitting him.
Yeah. You get it if people wear them, but here's why. It's for the mental game of thinking in your head like, okay, I have protection, so now I can go full force.
Right.
Because the pads they're not allowed to be more than 1/8 of an inch thick.
Right.
So you're wearing like a ShamWow on your shoulder. You know what I'm saying? You like have 4 paper towels on your shoulders, and you're like, "This is good.
This will work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just spear this dude now."
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
And it doesn't do shit.
People
you know
that are
what I mean?
good at rugby, they like slide tackle.
Yeah,
you know,
they like you like
if
pull
it's
guys
open
over
field.
you,
Yeah.
kinda like.
And dude, there's nothing more like fun than when someone kicks it up in the air and you have to go chase after it because it's literally just like a punt return.
Yeah.
And it's like someone's getting smoked.
I feel like the scrum, is that what you were talking about? Is
They
the
don't.
scrum?
So they've changed the rules. Like they do them way different now.
Really?
Yeah, they're like
I didn't even
not
know that.
contested. It's different now.
Huh.
Isn't like it's more hardcore or less hardcore? Okay, I was gonna say because dude, there's an actual like position in rugby called the hooker.
Yeah.
Right, and you're like sitting in the
That
middle.
was JP
I was
for
next
sure.
to the hooker. I was the prop.
Yeah, it's
The
prop.
hooker. So the
Hooker was
the guy.
underneath of his arm.
Hooker's supposed to be usually a tiny person.
You like wrap your arms around the hooker.
Yeah.
And you grab them by their shorts.
That's
JP,
what
how
I'm
many-
saying.
How many
Everybody
times have you
wrapped
wrapped
around
your
the
arms
hooker.
around the hooker?
Under his
I mean,
arm.
in
Everybody gets
Springfield?
in like this, yeah. Everybody gets in like this, and dude, like, yeah, the hooker has to kick the ball back to their side.
Yeah.
and
You like hold them up in the air by his shorts.
Yeah, that's also a ridiculous part of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Anyway, enough about rugby.
It's
All
a
right?
fun sport.
It's a lot of
Listen,
fun.
kids, give it a try.
Rugby
Chubby
players come
guys
to Strong
unite and
Barbell
start
Club.
playing rugby. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to a really interesting topic that you actually started bringing up, and I want to get into it. You talked about like just having a place for kids to train.
Yeah.
That it's actually inspiring to them. It's going to get them on the right track, the right path, if you will. We all in our fitness like lives remember a time where we felt super lost and felt like, what's the next step? You know what I mean? Like, where do I go from here? You know, you can get inspired, but that inspiration can die and that motivation can die pretty quick if you're not on the right track and you don't feel like you're making progress. And so for you, what makes training a child, for example, you were saying how getting back to your roots, you mentioned that earlier. What is it about training a kid, a much younger kid? We're talking like middle school, high school. What's about training them that's more fun for you than, for example, like a dedicated 50-year-old guy?
So for me personally, it's like kids at that age, no matter what they do, it's almost like a foolproof plan, wouldn't you say? Because show up, you are 100% going to get better. You are at that age where your hormone levels are just through the roof. Yeah. Like you could do
still
nothing, growing, right? So anytime that you're going, it's like you are enhanced essentially because in that time you're growing so much. But each time that they come in, it's like damn near every session they're hitting a PR.
Yeah.
Damn near every session.
Unreal.
And they get so pumped up about it. They get so pumped up and they're like, I can't believe like that's 25 pounds heavier than last week and it was easy.
Yeah.
If we get, for example, this is something I just generally don't know the answer to. Like if a Gen Pop, general population mother comes in, is it similar for them because they hadn't lifted weights yet?
1,000,000%. So let's talk about training age. So I'm 38 and I've trained for 26 years. And so my training, hey, whoever's phone that.
Okay, with the not
airplane mode, y'all.
So when it comes to people who are new, it's so much fun. Like, so that's the thing is everybody thinks that, well, I'm not going to go in and have JP Price coach me. He's
too big a deal.
And well, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to say it like that ever.
I'm saying it like that.
But like people are intimidated by Cade and by me.
I can't believe I could
into our gym.
Yeah, I couldn't even possibly imagine like being somebody who feels weak and be like, I'm going to go after the strongest person possible, which that should be their mindset, but it can obviously be extremely scary.
Right. Now, in the strength world, I mean, literally the strongest people that have ever lived in this part of the world are sitting at this table. And so when it comes to, saying like, hey, we want to give you the best, come get it. Like this is like being able to go learn how to play football from the highest source in the city, but you can't go there.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can come to our gym and we'll work with your mom on her first day and teach her how to squat right and then teach her how to set a PR. And kids and adults who have a low training age are the most fun to work with because they will make the most progress if they show up and they're committed, if they just want to do it.
Yeah.
And so one thing I'm really passionate about, especially with kids, is everybody here will know exactly what I mean right when I say this. I used to work a job where I worked with high school kids every day, and I would come in and help them fundraise, and I'd help coach them on their fundraiser. They all sucked at it, and this was me making them better at it, right? And so a lot of times in high schools, and this is no knock to high school coaches, but they're also turning over at a rapid rate. Like 1 in every 3 high school coaches doesn't come back next year. That's a stat that I had heard a couple years back. And it was just in this state where I know for a fact if kids come and work with us, they're going to get better care than 98% of high school coaches.
Yeah.
Because we know what we're doing. We're dedicated to this. That high school coach coaches weights, but he also has to work the parking line in the morning at the elementary school.
Yeah. He's also the history teacher.
He's also the history teacher.
He's
a dad. He's this, he's that. And he's trying to work with one person for a school. could be 1,500 kids, could be 2,000 around here. Now, when you work with us, it's 1-on-1, 1-on-5, 1-on-10. And so, we know for a fact that when they come to us, they're probably going to get better coaching than they can get anywhere else. And we're going to be able to do it fairly affordably because we're not a commercial gym.
Right. Yeah. You guys clearly have passion, and I think that's the biggest difference in the sense of talking about high school coaches. It's like, dude, some of them were asked to help out with football, to help out with strength conditioning, coaching, et cetera, because they like to work out. Right. It's like there's a difference between, and a lot of former athletes will tell you this. It's like there's a huge difference between people who just love to do the athletic sport versus who like to coach it. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of former players that don't get into coaching. They just like to play. It's true. So my question for you guys, especially you, JP, where you're as far as your athletic career, you're not so much trying to push on that end anymore. Are you seeing yourself dive in deeper as far as wanting to become a world-class coach with a more prominent, I guess, following on that sense? Yeah,
I mean, if I could say, the areas that I want to grow as a coach or grow my business, it is definitely in an area where I haven't been growing it, right? And it's probably just because I want something new. To be honest, everybody likes a new challenge. Everybody likes to rearrange their room.
Sure.
That feeling when you rearrange your room feels good.
Always.
The feeling when you walk into a new office feels good. Pretty good. Yeah. They have a table here.
Yeah.
That
lights
up and gets brighter or dimmer.
And it's their logo. I might add, it is so sexy.
It is.
It's hot.
So sexy. We have a sweet table here. Not this one. It's in the other room.
This table's cool too. Don't worry.
This table doesn't light up.
It's worth more now that we're sitting here, but
it's got my sweat.
But no, growing in areas that I haven't grown is the most interesting to me. And so to work with different styles of athletes and to help Kade grow his business in different styles, I would love to put us in a position where, a gym close to us, we have a great relationship with, and I can work with their trainers.
Yeah. Like in a consulting
exactly. Manner? Yeah. I could go to a high school and work a little bit closer with their coach. Yeah. Or run a camp with them, or do a summer kids camp and work on, for example, I know really well how to coach. And when a kid comes in, if they're 10 years old, I've got experience there now. I've got a 10 and a 7-year-old, and I'm pretty good at knowing how long a kid can go, what they're interested in, what exercises they enjoy, how to expose them to fitness, what things we can talk about with food to help make sense to them and create a nutrition culture for those kids too. So the ability to be able to offer a daytime kids camp in the summer, we couldn't do that now, but we will absolutely be able to do that down the road.
And will be.
Yeah,
I mean, just it'll happen for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
The thing with
or I'm a loser. Yeah.
The thing with what is the big deal with kids is strength is kind of like it's the factor that's unknown. Lots of kids come out, at least for me in sports, I was relatively fast. There's certain natural instincts that you have as a kid, but the strength portion is the strength and the size portion is the portion that's kind of the unknown. You're I don't really know how to do this. How do I gain weight? How do I gain strength? Right. What's the right way to gain strength? I remember when I was in high school and we started doing power cleans, I was just I'm going to yank this fucking bar. It was probably ugly as shit,
It's always because ugly in high school, right?
There's nothing more unorthodox than a power clean or a squat clean in the beginning.
There's huge money right now in prehab and rehab in our businesses.
Yeah.
And that stuff's going wild right now. And honestly, for young kids especially, and new adults to training, or people who have been at it and don't really know much yet, that have been just, reading. I used to read magazines and write down my workouts, and that was back in the day, but now it's get on the internet and or Instagram or whatever and write down a workout, or screenshot it. But for me and the way that we've gone about this and the way that we've learned, I just want that opportunity to bring somebody in and teach them the right way, because a good workout program is prehab.
Yeah.
Learning how to do the movements correctly at a young age, it might not make 10 out of 10 difference on the field that day, but if they're 27 and they're getting out of bed easier because of what we did when they were 14, that's a huge win. Now, you might have never quantify those things, but if I could get somebody to start training and they get into it for 26 years and they feel better than I do today because I didn't have the same coaching, I didn't have the same knowledge,
huge win.
huge win for us,
Huge
you
win.
know? And so that's where that experience, I think, really comes into play. And, you know, I just want people to have the best of what we have to offer. And, you know, we have the best of a lot of things.
When it comes to powerlifting, I was going to ask this regarding coaching earlier. There's a list of famous coaches that were basically mediocre players, right? Like Mike Krzyzewski, Duke head basketball coach, right? Phil Knight,
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick. I mean, the list goes on and on. So in the powerlifting world, who is there a big name that I don't know about? You know, is outside of, like I'm saying, I know that you guys are phenomenal at what you do. Is there somebody who's known to be the best powerlifting coach?
You know,
They
it's
sucked
really,
at powerlifting. Is that what you're asking?
No, like maybe they just weren't known. Like bottom line is, like I was trying to say this to JP earlier, I just couldn't explain it correctly. I feel like in my eyes, it's like you're very well known as a world-class powerlifting athlete, one of the best of all time. How do we get to there as a coach? And is anybody already there?
You know, there's not a ton of really great athletes that are really great coaches. And, you know, I've been watching Hard Knocks, and I don't watch much football, but I watch Hard Knocks.
Phenomenal show.
And Dan Campbell is one of those guys who, you know, he was a good player, really good player, and he played for a lot of teams. He's a backup tight end most of the time. And, you know, so there's some value to that, you know, that he's got. And you can see that there's areas where he's definitely not Bill Belichick, but there's areas where Belichick will never be him.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's certain things that I think he can get out of his players, and for me, you know, I think that the way that I learned the sport and the way that I got into it, and the guys that brought me in and the guys that were around me, they were so, you know, strict on some things that it helped me, you know, in the back end of my powerlifting career, take other things seriously that made me want to coach. So for me, a lot of guys get into it and they just worry about themselves, do their own thing, and then get out, right? And that's fine. You know, the great natural athlete, that's probably how most of them are. You know, most of them don't coach football after they're done playing it. But the way that I came in and the people that I came in with made me want to do that. And you notice that in coaching too. Dan Campbell's from the Bill Parcells tree.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He wanted to learn how to be a better coach, and he called Bill Parcells, and Bill said, "Come here, I'll teach you everything." And then Sean Payton told him, "Come here, I'll teach you everything," because he's a Bill Parcells guy.
Yeah.
And it's no different in powerlifting, you know. So we've got a guy in the gym, Greeno. He loves to coach.
Yeah.
He's a good lifter too, but he's a far better coach. And, you know, people like that, you know, dedicate themselves to that are the people who are teaching guys like me.
That's awesome.
And then, you know, I just happen to want to also teach it.
When you're like, I feel like maybe as a backup, you know, you're put in a position, like especially like a backup quarterback, for example, you have to know all the information, you have to know the whole offense, et cetera, but you're also getting the most intimate look at the starters. You're sitting on the same sideline as the coaches, and you're not playing. And so the people that really love the sport and are passionate about it are getting the same kind of look at it as the coaches are. And so there might be some truth to that, where it's like a backup might actually have a better opportunity.
I would say the second string studies more.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I take it to...
Especially not genetically gifted, right? Like if you're a backup and you don't have all these genetic gifts and you're somebody who's trying to become first.
I took it for granted until I started to see myself in the business.
Right.
You know, I didn't, you know, I coached many other sports growing up, and that probably helped me want to get into this, but I didn't really care about coaching powerlifting until, you know, I started switching jobs. And to be honest with you, I think, and Kate will probably back me up on this, my greatest strength is getting other people to do what they're great at. And, you know, like so I don't always delegate a lot, but if it's somebody I trust, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm never going to check on you again. You just know what you're doing. You know what I mean? And so we had to get the right people in place, because should I be day-to-day individual coaching? Probably not. I think my best strength is in building our community and making things bigger than the one-on-one. But that's the most important. But to enable other people to get those relationships and to bring them all under one roof, that's probably more my skill set, I think.
You have to kind of rise above that into a more of a management role. You know?
Yeah, at some point, you know, at some point you love being in the store and you love talking to customers, but at some point you had to not do that.
Yeah.
Well said.
And I never ever want to lose that. And that's my bread and butter, and that's what I'm good at. And I think it's probably going to be better for our community, though, if I invested that into my relationship with Kade.
Yeah.
And then me and Kade both taught a class with you. You know what I mean? Like I think that's going to be more of the way forward, is learning how to be a better manager, learning how to get better people in the door, and learning how to build business for everybody, not just for myself, because I'll just eat what's in front of me. and it might be enough to feed me, but I think our community deserves even more than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man.
There's I was going to say, in relating back to the powerlifting coach conversation we were having, there's a term in leadership called being battlefield aloof.
Yeah.
So that's basically when, you have somebody who is telling you what to do, but they've never done it themselves. And so you don't follow them to the same extent.
Yeah.
Is that happen? Do you see that happening in powerlifting where, for everybody who's listening that might not know, Kade is, one of the best powerlifters in the country. He is the upper echelon as far as strength athletes go. Would it be possible for you to follow, somebody or have a coach,
talked about this on the way in here,
at the point that you're at that hasn't been there yourself? Because, you're at a place where very few people have been in the strength world.
So I actually just watched some YouTube videos with Chad Wesley Smith talking about this and Max Aeta. And, I think that is going to fall and come down to the actual athlete having that trust with that coach. I've had coaches, JP's coached me. He's obviously totaled more than me. But the majority of my coaches I have been stronger than, right? So I think it just comes down to trusting in that person,
right,
and just knowing that they have your best interest in mind. And if you follow something, you're always going to get more results if you follow something and you don't, like,
with your full heart.
With your full heart, right? You're asking questions the whole time. Like, you can always have that question in the back of your head, like, well, should I be listening to them because they haven't done this? But why would you do that? Because in my mind, it's like, follow exactly what they're going to tell you. And if that leads you astray, then maybe you can take a different avenue. But in my experience, I haven't had any coaches that, totaled less than me or were weaker than me that ever did really bad things to me or led me in the wrong direction. So I think it's just having the trust for that person.
Yeah.
And with going on like the coaching thing earlier with, do you think that there are coaches out there that are really great coaches, but maybe they didn't perform at the top level? It's like, yes, all
of course,
the time.
All of them. Yeah.
There's literally so many of them, and there's probably a lot more coaches that weren't great athletes, rather, because I think it comes down to a lot of how much do they study the sport, and then also what kind of real world experience do they have? Have they sat down and worked with a ton of people? Have they failed over and over to actually learn from that? Because you're going to fail. It's inevitable. You're going to fail. But what did they get out of that? Do they learn from it?
I think, kind of talking about that, there's a lot of, in the bodybuilding world, they talk about it a lot. It's not about where you end up as far as like, a demonstration of how much you know in a sport. It's basically where you started versus where you end up. So if you have somebody who started, powerlifting and maybe they couldn't bench 225 like Luke, but they ended up being able to bench 500 versus somebody who started out being able to bench 400 and then made it to 500. Who's the better coach? Who figured out, the best way to optimize their training, the best way to optimize their, nutrition, the best way to optimize, every aspect that goes into powerlifting? You would say it's actually the one that made the biggest jumps, that actually knew more, figured out more, or might have just more knowledge.
And everybody has their own talents and experience and where they're from. In our sport, you notice a lot of people, they try to go be coached by who they attach themselves to. So a lot of girls go to the girl with the best ass. A lot of guys that are chubby and bearded go to me because they want to squat 1,000 pounds, or you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people find
who they see themselves
people
in.
that they see themselves gaining something from. I was injured, all the time, but I was.
They can relate. Like, a chubby bearded guy is going to think this guy knows what it's like to be me.
Exactly, and maybe they see you as like one of the better versions of what they're trying to do.
You're the best version of what I could be.
Maybe, and that gives them some like, hey, I want to learn a little bit about what it's like to do that, and and that works out for a lot of people. A lot of people that are Asian pick an Asian coach. A lot of people that you notice things from your background. A lot of people that want to learn more. Like at one point, I really wanted to learn more about benching because I couldn't really squat and deadlift. So I, hired for a little while a coach that was really good at that. And learned something from him, and now Kade and I use that shit in our workouts. Like Kade and I, we had a cool athlete relationship where I had done exactly what Kade was trying to do. at the time, except he's a way better deadlifter than I've ever been. And, in some ways that really worked out and we learned some stuff together. But Kade is like way, way, way more specific in a lot of things than I am. I'm a little bit more artistic. Okay. And Cade's a little more autistic. No, I'm just kidding. So,
Wow.
Cade,
I mean, everyone has a little bit of autism.
oh yeah. But
It's
so
a spectrum.
Cade, the way he learned and the way he got brought in was way more detailed than me. And the way that I got brought in was way more freeform,
Right.
And so we had that mix of things that was good in some ways. And then, he needed a little bit more ratchet up on that, categorical specificity.
Right. Just pick it up versus all the tweaks.
And so where we learn some stuff from some people and some stuff from other people, everybody goes in seasons too. Relationships get stale. There's only so many varieties and options, and I know there's a million of them, but you get stuck in ways, and so it's good just to venture out and figure other things out. Like it's great to, like I said, I've done this for 26 years. Well, what other sport do people do for a really long time? Like we played football for 12 years and that was it.
Yeah.
There's really no more
Football's one of the
football
shortest
for us.
lifespans there ever was, which is why I think NFL is honestly such a popular sport, is because the lifespan is so short.
It stays
everybody still has a
everything in
piece
the
of it in
NFL
them,
is so short. It's exciting. It's all in bursts. It's all in excitement. It's all in everything's a highlight. It's
fast,
and all we're there
Fast
for.
baseball.
There might be 120 plays in a baseball game, but you only or a football game, but you only remember like 3.
Right.
And so we're like always trying to get that one exciting thing. And the most boring sports, typically you can play the longest. In my opinion. Obviously,
Pickleball is really picking up steam.
yeah, it is.
Golf.
But disc golf.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm just saying. So I, in my twilight years, disc golf's more my speed, Kyle.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's a sport that you can do for a really, really long time. And, people think there's some barrier for entry. Like, honestly, the number one population I wish I could, really help out, but they're the hardest to help sometimes is, the dads that I talk to at every single dad event that I go to.
Right.
And they're like, I remember when, and I used to be, and, then the kids, and I'm like,
It's like you still can.
I'm like, no, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I get those struggles, and I had an all-time world record with 2 toddlers. So let's talk about how we can make that happen in your life in the way that you want.
It's amazing when you have, this is a totally separate topic, but dude, it's amazing when you have such a stature like you guys do. Or anytime I'm hanging out with my other friends, let's say we've had Justin Williams on here. He's ripped to shreds all the time. People get so wildly uncomfortable with themselves when they come around people who dedicate themselves to any kind of sport.
Right.
And it's like people just walk up to you guys, and like people that are listening at home, like you guys have no idea what it's like. Fit shaming and all that stuff is not something anybody talks about.
Real.
It's unbelievable. Like because they think that like. It's not a big deal to talk to somebody who's in great shape.
Right.
They'll walk up to you and just say, give me some examples, guys. Like, they'll just walk up to you and be like, man, so, when'd you, how much you bench?
Oh,
just like out of nowhere, you're like, hey, I don't need this.
I'm so glad you chose bench. Let me tell you.
Ask me how much I squat.
How many extra people? So we went to the Kenny Chesney concert together, right?
Right.
I was wearing American
Shout out Kenny
flag
Chesney.
cut off overalls. He's the worst act of the night.
Yeah.
And so we went to this Kenny Chesney concert. From the tailgate to the concert, how many extra conversations do you think I had because I'm 325 pounds?
He's a sideshow. Everybody, like, you can't walk anywhere with him.
The American flag overalls really set it off.
Yeah, dude, but like, and I'll say this, like, you're wearing American flag overalls, you're asking for a little bit of attention.
Sure,
that's okay.
I was
but I'm
thought
saying that,
that.
like, you're just standing in an elevator, people are like, oh man, good thing there's not 2 of you on here. And you're like, dude, thanks.
Yeah, because we would be
Appreciate
farting.
it.
No, like I remember going up every time I had to go up the bleachers to pee. We were on the floor and we had to walk all the way up the stadium every time we had to go to the bathroom. Plus, I was in a romper. There was no zipper in these things, so it was terribly uncomfortable.
Did you have to take him down to the ankles?
Yeah,
like
in the trough,
yeah.
But so I had to like hold him, and so I didn't like get him on the floor. But so nobody wants to put a strap over their shoulder with somebody else's urine on it. Yeah, but so every time I would walk up the thing, like everybody wanted to like slap hands or give me a pound.
Take
and
a picture with you.
Yeah, picture. And so I remember like I'm going and I'm getting kind of bored of this, and I've had a few. Yeah. And so this guy reaches out to pound it to me, and I just reach up and I grabbed his hand and I go, gear shift, which is from the Trolls movie. Yeah. And his wife was dying. Yeah. I remember that night I went to get us a pizza at Caddy Shack, and there was a girl at the bar that had a picture that her cousin took of me in the stadium. It was a really good picture. Oh, really? I put it on Instagram, but it was awesome. A picture of me walking up the steps in my overalls.
Like, this is the kind of energy I'm bringing, you know?
I was like, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm glad it was a good pick.
Yeah. But yes, fit shaming.
Fit shaming.
Real.
Tell me your last story that you've had on that, Kade. Or maybe just one that sticks out to you.
They all blend together right now, I swear.
I think the example that you gave where it's like when you get into a conversation like, man, I wish I had the time to do that. I'm like, motherfucker, you think that I just like have more time in my day than you do?
Right.
Like
I'm at the same baseball game that you're at.
Yeah, I make it a priority.
People never, dude, it happens all the time when people just kind of, project their insecurities out to you. But it's like, you didn't see that coming. Like you don't feel like you're any different from anybody else. And they're just walking up to you like, man, I wish I could still lift like you guys do. And it's like, who told you couldn't? I don't,
Yeah, I feel like it's any time that I've really had it a lot that I've noticed is like any time that I'll go to a bar, like say with friends or just whoever I'm with, it's like people are less scared to talk to you because they have alcohol in them, right? But they'll come up to you and they'll be like, hey,
lots of arm wrestling talk.
Yeah, like, dude, you want to arm wrestle, bro? I'm like, I mean, I don't think you want to, but sure.
I sat down at a bar a couple weeks ago and somebody said something about arm wrestling, and I sat down and I go, I'd like to see you fucking try. It's just like the first thing that came out.
Yeah, wasn't with the pep dance.
Yeah, I did.
But I think it's more of like
the guy had eyeball tattoos.
Wow.
Yeah, they were blacked out.
Wow. But I think it's more of just them coming up and be like, yeah, dude, I used to bench like 315. I did it for like 3 reps. Yeah. And it's like, what's stopping you now? It's like, maybe drink a little less. Cause like anytime that I don't drink, right?
Right.
So like anytime that I drink, like I might have a beer. I might have 1 beer a week. Maybe. Not right now.
Yeah. Sure.
But normally that's normal for
That's
me.
your speed.
Yeah, that's my speed. Like I don't drink a lot, but I'll talk to them and they'll be like, yeah, if I could just find the time. I'm like, well, what do you do? Like I'll actually ask them questions. I'll be like, what do you do for work? And they're like, well, I work in sales. And I'm like, what time do you get off of work? And they're like, like 5. I'm like, why don't you have time after work? And they're like, I do. I'm just so mentally drained by the time that I get done that I don't want to do that. And I'm like,
what do you do before work?
Yeah, it's like, do you have time before? They're like,
and look,
I really want to sleep. It's like they don't prioritize that.
Well, and everybody
that's not their priority.
They don't really want it. They like the idea of it.
Yeah, you guys will think this is Kyle. You and Luke might not know this about me, but these two absolutely know this shit about me. So people are like, "Oh man, the amount you must work out. You probably in there 5 days a week." And I'm like, I work out 3 days a week.
It's a lot easier to keep it after you've already built it.
Yeah. That's true. So when I was a kid, I worked out like 4 days a week, but you can make progress on 3 days a week. You can make 2 days a week is a little tough, but you can make really good, steady progress on 2 to 3 days a week. And so for me, the way that I fit this into my life, I don't just want to make fun of people, but like, this is a legit story. People are still like, oh, why do you work out late at night? Like, well, one, because I'm not disciplined and I don't wake up early enough. Yeah. So I don't make the time. So I do at night. So ever since my kids were born, my ex-wife and I were in the hospital, and it was Thursday. And I said, hey, we're getting out of here on Saturday. We're going to stay 2 nights. What are we doing this weekend? And she said, well, on Sundays at 1, you squat. Oh, it's a lifestyle, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my kids, when they were born, they took naps at noon or 1, and they slept till like 3, and then good sleepers. And then Tuesday and Thursday, I would work out, squat on Sunday because it was the longest workout. I had bench on Tuesday at 7:30 or 8 o'clock because they went to bed at 7:30. They still do. Mm-hmm. And then I would deadlift on Thursday, same thing. And so I never took my time away from my kids to work out. Now, sometimes will, my work schedule or the way that I built it mess with a baseball game or two? Sure. But I get to 80 or 90% of them, you know? And I'm still able to balance my goals and be a good dad and not have it be a tug of war of where and sometimes it's a little hard, but it's worth a 10-minute thought or conversation to figure these things out if it's what you want to do.
Well, sometimes you have to fill your cup to make sure that you're able to
Fill others.
Can't pour into others.
Yeah, like let's say for example, I haven't been giving me my best lately, and like this morning I was feeling chubby. I snacked last night, right? Mm-hmm. I was feeling chubby this morning in the car. I'm just like, I'm a little uncomfortable. Well, I gave myself that. I can give myself the other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can make that choice, and everything's a choice, and it's tough because then you're the only one to rely on when it's good or bad, but at least you get that.
Sure.
And we have a choice to give that to ourselves. And I just haven't always given myself my best. And, that person isn't either. Mm-hmm. And if that's something they actually want to do, great. But if not, then just stop fucking talking to me about it all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It's like either do it or don't, but you
Absolutely.
have a choice.
Spend time on what you actually give a shit about and don't waste mine.
You actually have a choice, guys.
Yeah. I'm remiss. There's two things I want to make sure we discuss on the podcast before we wrap this up. And that's one, Kade, you're still absolutely ascending the sport, and you've been training your ass off for a very long time.
Cade's chasing my bench record. Is this correct?
I don't think he can ever be as small as you again.
Listen, dude,
I couldn't. I did never do it at 242. If
you want to compete with what I used to do in powerlifting, you're going to have to get real close to benching more than you squat. So that's going to be quite
the journey. I may never get there.
It's unfortunate as hell that the way our cameras are set up, that Cade's quads couldn't make it into the shot. But if we just adjusted them maybe 1 degree,
dude, let's pants down it right now on the camera.
Cade gets a lot of the, hey, could you squeeze my head with those thighs?
It's all men. It's all men.
It's always men.
The ratio is 5 to 1.
So that's the other part about fit shaming is like, I don't get approached by women at the bar, but I was at one a few weeks ago and I'm sitting like this, or I'll just do it. I'm sitting like this and I feel a drink get set down behind my elbow and I hear, do you know how handsome you are?
And Jeff walks.
And I was like, oh, my DMs have come to life. How are you, sir? And he was like, I was like, thanks so much. I'm not interested. It feels good to be wanted, though. Thanks, man. Yeah. And he was like, no, that's cool. That's cool. Do you live close to here? What are you doing after this? And I was like, no, not really.
Really, dude. I'm like not interested.
You told me that, you poured it on even extra after you were like, I'm good, dude. He's like, no, but seriously, like, you want to go home with me?
No, but seriously, thanks. But no, thanks.
All right. But on you ascending the sport, you have a big meet coming up here in 2.5 weeks. And to be clear on this, that was the other part of the questions I want to talk about is you guys put on world-class powerlifting meets, specifically JP, you have, judged, probably close to 1,000 meets in your life at this point.
We've put on a lot of them, man. We put on about 8 or 9 meets a year. And again, just like coaching, putting on a big meet's fun. It's also super stressful.
Super stressful.
And,
like you guys don't see all the work that he does behind the scenes, but it is immense amount of stress.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I want to put together, the kind of meet that I would want to perform in when I was in the sport. Cause honestly, it wasn't there. I competed in a lot of places that I didn't necessarily want to compete in just cause I went where the money was, and the places I wanted to be weren't putting the money up. And in order to get the big names, you have to put the money up. So
speaking of money, how much money are you guys thinking about giving away at this next meet in 2.5 weeks?
So far we've raised, and hopefully we can put a little bit more in here by the end of the show. But hopefully we've raised around $38,000 right now,
close to $40,000 already.
Yeah, and it's the highest paid powerlifting meet in the world this year.
This is the USPA World
Championships.
Pro Raw Championships.
Yeah, the USPA Pro Raw Championships. It's going to be September 24th. At Brave Enough CrossFit in Northtown, and it's a big 25,000 square foot gym. We'll have some great people out there. Force Forum will have their 10 out there, and all the people there.
Some of the top powerlifters in the entire world will be here.
Yeah, there will be. I'd have to say probably close to a dozen world records.
Yeah,
of various types. At
least 12.
We've got in 5 weight classes in a row. We've got the world record holder.
That's cool.
Yeah. Men and women, correct?
Yeah, men and women, and so there's going to be around 36 athletes. Of the very, very, very best caliber in the world. I think, and just so you know how hard it is to get to this meet, only the top 20 in the world qualified, and we're invited. There's a couple people coming from overseas, and only the best are allowed to be here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think originally we had like 67 signed up, and we've lost 30 in the shuffle. Like, that many people can't make it because they can't stay healthy enough to compete at this level.
That's the hardest part. I know, Kate, you've had tons of meets in the last couple of years. I remember this exact meet. I believe, was it 2 years ago, where you did your 800, 800, 500?
That was a year ago.
That was just 1 year ago.
Yeah,
That was fucking awesome.
But that was a year. It was like a year prior that you couldn't do the Kern.
I did 858. He's talking like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I did it again.
Yeah.
Right.
A little bit heavier.
Your first time hitting
a little
it.
bit more.
Yeah. Your first time hitting that, though, which was crazy. You said, hey, I'm going to do a 2,300 pound total.
No, 21.
2,100. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. 2,100, but it was the 885, and you're like, this was like, it was like a 60 pound PR, I believe, at one point on this, at least on just squat, right?
Yeah.
Something ridiculous. And it was just like, holy shit, you made a name for yourself that day. And so now it's going on to this next level, ascending like a bigger tier. Do you want to discuss potentially what you're going for on this one?
I don't really want to talk about goals all that much.
I'm with you.
I don't want to jinx myself.
I'm
not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious. But I think really, realistically, I can, beat my last total for sure. Squats feeling really good. Bench is feeling really good. Deadlifts have been a little iffy, but I think that's just because I haven't had enough time coming back from like a low back injury, that I'm just not in that same position that I want to be, essentially.
Where you really feel like you can push.
I will be over time, but maybe not this meet. Who knows?
Sure.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to improve on my last total, and if 2,200's in the cards, it could be in the cards.
Cade's at this mature point in his career too, where you can't always grow all three. It's just a lot of effort and a lot of recovery. And I mean, every workout takes days to recover from, and he's giving himself the best attention, the best care, and working really hard at it. But his squat and his bench are, really growing pretty well this year. And the deadlift's been the slowest to come back, but doesn't mean it's not going to be there the way he needs it.
Right. Needs that back to come back all the way first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it might be there on meet day. Who knows?
Yeah. The meet situation's pretty fun, and Cade's the kind of, all these athletes are going to be ones that get bigger day of, because they've all been a lot of places before, and most of them it's their second or third sport that they've been good at. And so for those athletes that come in, it's a pretty fun show. Like, we'll have you can come to it personally. I think it's $30 a day to come in for the Friday show, and it'll be a lot of fun, a lot of big athletes going at it. There's not a huge roster, so the meet will flow pretty well.
Saturday,
60,
right?
Yeah. If there were 60 lifters, it would take 10 hours, but it's hard to watch a sporting event for 10 hours.
Right.
And so
it's a long day anyway.
It's going to be set up in a way where it's going to be the most fun to watch for the way that our sport's presented. And then, there's a group called A1 Digital we're working with where, we pay $6,500 for 1 day of live streaming. They have a 3 to 5 person crew of cameras that are always moving from the chalk bowl to, we'll have like a WWE
that's
curtain
cool.
entrance
Walk
with, fog machines and
Let's go.
fire machines behind the platform.
Let's fucking go.
And
awesome, dude.
so it'll be cool. It'll be a fun atmosphere. It'll be a fun event, and then it'll be enjoyed by, probably 100,000
If
people.
you enjoy strength, if you enjoy
Free live
powerlifting,
stream.
dude, you guys got to get out to Brave Enough CrossFit on
It's
September
free.
24th.
Yeah. So for anybody who
The
didn't
live
hear
stream
that,
is
it's
free.
Yeah.
To attend is $30 a day. It's only a 1 day event though.
Yeah, it's a big
Right?
1 day event. Yeah,
Saturday. So it'd be $30. I went last year, dude. Absolutely. Dude, it's unbelievable to watch these athletes lift the amount that they're lifting. It's so much different to see it in person. I can only say that if you live in the Kansas City area, you need to make it a priority to set aside some time to stop by on September 24th. It is unbelievable to watch.
That's when I realized Cade's you have two types of lifters. The types of lifters that are gym lifters that they can hit stuff, and then they go to a meet and it's just like not there.
Yeah.
And then you have the opposite of that, which are guys that the meet day is the day for them. And last year when you freaking hit that, or it might have been 2 years ago, the first time you hit
Him and I were both there when you hit that.
I was like, fuck, dude, Cade's in the zone, dude.
I do have a tendency to do a lot better on meet day, and I think that's just to do with like the environment. You're hyped up on that day, and it's a very like mental battle between you and yourself. But I think that nervousness or like excitement, whatever you want to call it, I think that will help elevate you most of the time.
Well, if you're going to choose a place to show up where it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
dude.
know, and we always, at our gym, we call each other gamers. Like, Like you'll see me do something, then I'll call something, and somebody will be like, and then the other guy will be like, he's a gamer. He knows what he's doing. Don't worry.
And I think
don't worry about that little guy.
He'll be all right.
That's a big thing too. Is just like we see a lot of people in the powerlifting community, and a lot of times, they're hitting these big lifts. They're in the gym. They're posting it on Instagram, and that can mess with you mentally. But just know that if you are really strong and you are at an elite level, you can't always be peaked. Yeah. It's impossible. You cannot always be peaked. So you're seeing these huge lifts. You don't know whether that's, maybe they bit off a little bit more than they can chew in their training. And it's like, well, will they do it when it matters? That's when it really matters.
Well, there's a lot of these kids out there now that are 20, 22 years old, sumo deadlifting with straps on and super wide plates and whippy bars. And, they're like, 850-pound deadlift, which is 90 more than I've ever done, but I don't give a shit until you do it in a meet. Like, and if you're not on the all-time world record list, no one cares. Doesn't mean anything to anybody that means anything, and you'll be forgotten, And I ran into somebody recently who's one of those lifters, and all he talked about the whole time we hung out was about being sponsored, and not having to work, and like doing clout lifts and building his Instagram, and I'm like, God, this is so not the conversation for me.
This is not what I like about
You'll have to tell me off air who that is, because I want to know.
Yeah.
You'll know.
Yeah, you already know.
There's a kid out of Springfield that's like that. He's been doing like 900-pound deadlifts, and it's the same. I'm sure it might be
I've
the
never
same
heard
kid.
his name. That's probably why.
Is his last name Shores?
I have no clue.
No?
Shores.
I'm thinking about Silas, the biggest guy I know in Springfield.
Oh, this kid looks like Luke, so you see him and you're like, this guy can't.
Micah Marino?
He looks like this guy's not going to be able to deadlift 900 pounds, and he deadlifts 900 pounds. You're like, what the fuck was that? But you're right. Super whippy bar, got straps, hands in like this,
Yeah, I mean, it's which is whatever. But if you could do it in a meet, because that's what we're trying to act like we're preparing for.
That's the sport, cool
yeah.
These guys who play soccer and they do like this trick shots. It's like, dude, do that in a game.
I mean, I've literally seen people get 1 million views on something for deadlifting 881 pounds, and then in a meet they did 727.
Yeah,
and dropped 750. And it's
because they don't have straps on.
Yeah,
that's why this is the Raw World Championships.
That's right.
Raw, baby.
That's what counts, man.
So
raw dog, they'd say.
There's a lot of places where they're not very strict, and ours is going to be up to a very high standard. So it's a place where you can be really proud of whatever you get accomplished.
Yeah, that's another thing too. And we might have talked about this on the last podcast, but judging makes your meet. If you have loose judging, and because that people are posting their lifts on Instagram, if the judging's loose, then all of a sudden there goes your
JP. You've got really strong thoughts on judging. And I know that you, and I mean really strong thoughts.
I think we all do.
I know, but I feel like I got to give JP credit because he articulates this so well. Why is it that poor judging is so terrible for the sport? And I mean specifically squat depth.
Yeah, squat's the worst one, and it's because it's the one that is by far the most objective.
Yeah,
and so people are sitting there watching, and it's really, really, really important to get referees that have no pulse, no heart, don't care about clout. For me, being a good friend to somebody, the way that I grew up and the way that we act in our gym is, if you don't have great depth on your squats, if you're going to get a red light for it, well, one, we don't want you to embarrass yourself. We don't want you to embarrass us. And, we want a high standard for what we're doing and have personal pride on that, just like you don't want the guys that work at your stores to lie to people.
Yeah. Right.
Same thing. It's honesty. It's integrity.
Honesty is nice.
And if it starts to go away,
it's kind.
If it starts to go away, it's hard to ever get it back. Mm-hmm. And the further it goes away, the further it is from ever coming back. And so having a hardline standard that's consistent makes it really, really easy to know what to expect from people. So like in our gym, one time I had a guy who I worked out with named David LaMartina, and David and I were talking between sets, and he said, "Hey, your breath doesn't smell very good today." And I was like, "Oh, you're an actual friend." Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, he actually gave me the constructive criticism I needed to have a better day.
Yeah.
And so if Kade was not squatting to depth and I was like building him up like, "Hey man, you're fucking awesome. That's great. You're the biggest, strongest guy." And then they give him red lights at the meet.
What does that do for me?
I just screwed it up, and he screwed, so have a higher higher standard for yourself so that, it's consistent.
It's not always what you want to hear.
If we're going to build powerlifting as a sport, which I know is your guys' goal, we got to have integrity in the sport, and you cannot grow the sport if you're going to give everybody praise and clap for them and give them 3 white lights when they were, 2 inches away from being to depth. It's like, dude, you had to go to depth. You didn't go there.
Well, and it's just personal accountability too. I was at a meet recently, and somebody I know personally gave a lift they shouldn't have gave, and that person they gave that lift to, I mean, they're honestly going to make a lot of money from it. They're going to get a lot of credit for it and a lot of clout for it, but nobody that means anything to me is going to take them seriously.
Let's for depth purposes, can we just have a video of JP squatting 1,003 right here? Because that depth is.
You can't really argue
undeniable.
Ass to grass.
Well, undeniable in raps.
People,
especially in raps.
In our culture, in general, not just powerlifting, in our culture, everybody wants to talk about haters. We've got soccer moms posting about their haters, about somebody who in the team group chat said something negative about their shawl. And so for me, man, like, as a lifter, I never had anybody that really talked shit on me because I never did things to get shit talked on.
Right.
And so, I mean, the way that it is for me is it's like if you just do everything right, then
we don't have anything to talk about.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to be honest with you, the more controversial figures were more popular than me, and I don't care. Everybody that follows me knows that I did things right. And that's way more important to me than anything else. And, the other stuff's cool too, but for me, I'm just not ever willing to sacrifice on that kind of shit. And, I'm not going to have people around me that do either.
That's why JP and I know that you will back me up on this. Whenever you see, and you're looking through the records list, we literally go and look at the federation to see what they did it in. Right. Because we know certain ones, whether it's, XPC, SPF, whatever federation it is, they most likely didn't squat to depth. And I'm not going to respect their record as much.
So the fun thing about that for me was that back in the day, the meets I wanted to go to that had the money weren't the federations I wanted to compete in, but I didn't give a shit. I was going to go there and do it the way I wanted to do it and still beat their ass. Mm-hmm. And that was way more important to me. Like going and watching a baseball game and watching a team that's full of assholes that are being dicks and sliding with their cleats up, and their coach is a dick and he's talking to his kids like they're, he's mother effing his kids and making them feel bad about themselves, and they're turning around and treating other kids bad. When that team wins, everybody feels like shit about it, but when a team comes in and they're like picking people up and but they're still competitive and hard,
right?
And they're playing hard and they're working their ass off. Everybody likes that team. That's why people like the Chiefs right now. They're not assholes. But get rid of them.
Yeah,
like for the most part. And
he plays for Miami now.
Yeah. so that's
I was
why
thinking you said it.
Yeah. That's why people like George Brett. That's why people like Cal Ripken. That's why people like Wade Boggs. Like, these are the type of people that I looked up to when I was a kid, and those are the type of people that I want in my corner. And I just want to know what to expect from people, and you can from them.
Yeah.
Dependable.
Very good point.
Well, we got one question we always ask everybody.
I got one question before this question.
Go ahead.
This is very important because we got JP on the show.
Sure.
Last time we asked, because JP's, I respect JP's music prowess.
Hey.
And
this is good.
I got to know what's on the playlist right now, JP.
Okay, so I've got a couple new ones.
JP goes deep on music.
I've got a couple new ones. So I dance around a little bit on the music, and Jeff and I recently got into EDM a little.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
jumped in there.
So we've definitely moved it around some,
We have artists. We have favorite artists in the EDM world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't listen to deep tracks yet, but I'm
not yet.
Yeah, I listen to the hits.
You're working on it.
Yeah.
We're in the top 40.
Yeah.
And so for me, here's a new one. I went and saw a band 2 weeks ago, and they were
the Big
live.
Gigantic?
No. This is going to be hardcore.
Sorry.
So for lifting specifically, since you asked about that, we can go for a long time on everything else, but check out Alpha Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
Alpha Wolf from Australia just did their first U.S. tour, and I went a couple weeks ago in this tiny room, and it was so good. Look up Acid Romance. That's a good start for you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I've
Acid
listened
Romance
to
by
what's
Alpha Wolf.
They have
you would like Alpha Wolf.
Yeah. I think I've listened to a couple of their songs. They have one that's oh God, I can't remember what it's like.
This is terrible.
Your phone is right
what
there.
You just did.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
All good.
It's the one I didn't want to say this
Remember
on the
that song
podcast,
we
but
really,
it's
really
about
liked?
it's about a girl that's getting molested.
Okay, well, hey, let's deep tracks.
Yeah, deep tracks. Sorry. Anyways, I didn't want to say it on the podcast.
Absolutely looking.
It was a sad story. It wasn't a proud story.
Yeah, that's true.
right.
Yeah.
Ward of the State's another one. Ward of the State by Alpha Wolf. Check that out.
Hard.
Kublai Khan and Stick to Your Guns played last night.
Yeah, dude.
So
They're
we
freaking
didn't
great.
go. It was my kids' night.
Yeah.
We always talk about
Knock
barbecue.
Loose is coming back to Lawrence.
I'm in.
So-
This is an after the pod conversation.
sorry.
We always talk about barbecue on the podcast.
Have to.
JP's favorite was Slaps.
Always.
You got one barbecue spot to tell people to go to. If they're in town for a day, you get one.
One?
You get one.
I take people to Slaps. I get the cattleman's platter and the 3 little pigs. Add a half slab of ribs. Make sure you get the cheesy potatoes. The macaroni's meh. And for sure, hush puppies. Ask for the white sauce. It's not on the menu.
Ooh.
To be honest, you guys might disagree with me on this,
Oh,
but I love Oklahoma Joe's. I love them.
you will
and-
call it Oklahoma Joe's. You won't call it Casey Joe's.
Okay, Casey Joe's, Joe's
You're
Casey,
good. You're
whatever.
good.
Which
Yeah.
one? Which one are you going to?
The gas station.
Okay, the original.
That's
original.
fine.
You're a sandwich guy.
And
You're a sandwich
Get
guy.
the Z-Man.
I will never
get the
get a
Z-Man
barbecue
sandwich,
ever.
but with the burn ends.
Okay.
Always,
that's
yeah.
better.
If they have any left, right? Because they're always running out.
They
Yeah.
have good fries.
They never ran out when I was
all I
there,
wanna
but
say
anyway,
about
that's
Casey
where I would
Joe's-
go.
All I want to say about Casey Joe's is when somebody asks me about a place and in my review I say, no, you should get their fries. Their fries are great. It means their barbecue's probably shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Casey Joe's is their level is like they're head to head. Like a Z-Man with fries is one of the most perfect barbecue like lunches you can ever have.
I won't disagree with
Also,
that.
a
I
good
just think
barbecue
Slaps is
spot.
better.
This can be second, but another good barbecue spot is Wolfpack Barbecue, and it is now
Ooh, first timer on this
and
show.
it is now in Center Block. So Center Block Brewery,
Call sign.
Call Sign Brewery is in.
In Northtown, Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So right off of Burlington Street, I haven't been to the. I've been to Call
I've
Sign
seen
and their
it on
beer
like
was great.
I've seen it on like a DoorDash, right?
It's
But it's
good.
inside Call Sign.
It's
Yeah.
good.
Call Sign Brewery. The other
What's it
thing I was
called
going to say
again?
is
What's it called?
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack Barbecue.
Yeah, in Northtown.
the Rocket Pig needs to be discussed as well because I'm a Heat fan.
Haven't been yet.
Oh, Rocket Pig is the sandwich from Casey Joe's. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
it's not the Z-Man. So Rocket Pig has fried jalapenos. More of a spicy fan.
Big
person.
fan.
Yeah,
Big
yeah.
fan of the fried jalapenos.
If you haven't had the Rocket Pig, get it. That's
At
it for
Quick
our
Trip,
show
you
today.
can
guys.
add
Sorry.
fried jalapenos to your sandwich now. By the way,
Well aware.
I'm just saying.
well aware.
Kate's-
You're living
Kate's-
in the past.
Kate's
QT
the kinda-
ambassador over here.
Kate's
so.
the kind of friend when I ask him to get me a sandwich from QT, he orders one on the thing and waits for it.
Oh, dude, that's
Yeah.
Jeff to a T.
and I added fried jalapenos.
So the fried jalapenos are an extra 49 cents. That kind of sucks. Everything else they add, that's extra money, is typically available for free on the hot dog caddy.
It's true.
So just, take your sandwich over there and get it free. Anyways, that's all. That's all you need to know for Quick Trip today. Next on the order, we have our Protein Bros t-shirts. These are available at all of our stores, and they're also available on our website, proteinbrospodcast.com. If you guys would like one of those shirts and you are a loyal listener, we'd love for you to come by one of our locations. Simply ask the staff for a shirt, show them that you're a subscriber, and they will hook you up on the house. I know we just got a new order of those in, so every store should have a few
Your
left.
new clothing line is dope. So I got the tank top,
Mm-hmm.
the S2 Faction tank top, and it's like a heather gray. And the best way I can describe it is like the most comfortable wear around the house Sunday tank top I've ever had. Like usually I prefer my tanks cut a little higher, and this one goes just a little lower. Super comfortable, tailored fit on the bottom, where the bottom is not just straight across. It has a little tailor to the back of it. Super comfortable, heavy duty. Like one of those materials where people touch it and their only response is butter.
That's nice.
I had to let you guys know that. So
Stretchy.
I'm wearing the hat today, and the tank top's my other favorite.
We did get
item.
some new
Thanks,
apparel in,
buddy.
so we need to check it
Yeah.
out
Yeah,
for sure.
for sure
We'll
get in.
we'll show you guys on the way out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate you. We just celebrated 1 year. We really, really appreciate it if you guys shared up the podcast. It's the only way we get the name out. And support local fitness.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you guys, and good
Congratulations,
luck.
guys.
Yeah, good luck on you guys' new adventure.
Congrats on the new office, the 8th location, dominating Kansas City. That's all we all want to do in the most positive way.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.